appreciate y'all, man. How many brought a Bible in the equivalent of?
Amen.
Okay, 1 Kings 17 and 9. 1 Kings 17 and 9. We're not going there for a little bit, but I want you to be able to put your finger there. I want you to hear me for really fast. Man, I got a lot of time. What's up with that? I don't need that, actually. I bet I can make it that way. I bet I can stretch it out. Amen. 1 Kings 17 and 9. Hey, man, I appreciate the Spirit of the Lord that you feel, and when you walk in the building, and man, I was talking to some guys the other day about just church stuff, man. You know, when you're a pastor, you just talk about church stuff a lot. Man, just it's hard to imagine. It's hard to imagine just going to some cold, old, dry, dead church. And I don't. Man, if that ever happens here, I'm leaving. I mean, I just am. That's not my spiritual DNA. I can't do the old just come in the house and leave and cold. Can't do it. Can't do it. So if I ever have that, you know, y'all might need to, you know, somebody might say, well, Jeff, you're already there. You need to go ahead and go. That's all right. I mean, that's fine. I'll know when it's time to go. But I appreciate coming to the house of God and being able to feel the house, feel the Spirit of the Lord, and feel the house of the Lord full of God's people. Now, I know Wednesday night is you know, it's a hard night for modern couples and modern families, and I get that. I understand that. But then again, I get this too. You do what you want to do. You go where you want to go. Unless you're on the job, I understand that. So there are people that are working tonight, and you know, there's people that are in the hospital tonight. There's people that are with their husbands in the hospital tonight. And so, I mean, I get that. I understand all that. But there's some folks just at home because they want to be home because they don't want to be at church. And there's a double-edged sword. That's a double-edged sword because somehow, some way we got to compel them to come to the house of God, right? And I understand that there's circumstances that show up, that crop up, that you don't know they're going to happen until it happens. I was, Brother Gerald's going back to work probably next week, and we were talking on the van, and I was like, he's like, I don't know if I'll be able to do this when I go back to work because he's been off because he broke his ankle in 9 places, and so I was like, oh, that's right. He's not going to be able to ride in the van. Great. Hallelujah. So now, okay, he's going to come sing. Oh, no. And so we now I have to have somebody else, and Gerald's great because he don't get mad at kids and yell at kids. He just like opens the door and make it in and shuts the door. And so it's great, and he knows where the route is. And so now I'm like, man. So now I'm not have to break his other ankle, so I can drive myself. So I'm going to have to do something because now I'm losing another van ride. Because whether you know it or not, you're not supposed to drive vans by yourself because things happen and people say stuff and not that's happened here, thank by the grace of God. Amen. And it's only by the grace of God. But I have a question for you. What do you do? What do you do when kids are expecting you to come show up and there's nobody here to help? What do you do? Where do you cut the line off and say, well, I can't do it? But Brother Jeff, I need a ride. Yeah, I know. Too bad. And that comes on our side too because we're not very vigilant about presenting those things. And I'm just using that as that. Please don't say, well, I don't need 19 people coming up to me and say, I'll ride in the van. Okay? I'm just using Gerald as an example because we were just talking about it. It wasn't meaning we need 19 van riders, okay? And so it's not that. It's just that we were talking about it on the way to church, picking up kids. And so that was just fresh in my mind. But if we don't prepare, then sometimes we have a hard time executing what we haven't prepared for. And so today, I'm going to talk to you for just a few minutes. Like I always say, I'm not going to keep you forever. I'm going to keep you as long as I need to, and I'll let you go, okay? We're going to talk about being prepared, preparation. just being ready. Well, y'all quiet today. Y'all subdued today. And so, and that's okay. I mean, I take a nap too. It's raining. If I could take a nap, I would have. Today I went over to the Way Church over at the old Pentecostal Holiness Church over across from O'Reilly, and he'd gotten some chairs. He was selling his pews, so we're carrying out these pews, and of course it didn't rain on me all day until we started carrying out pews. And then it's like, Jesus, help us. Jesus, take the wood. Those things are, though, I guess the original pews out of that church, because they were solid wood, 12 feet long, baby foot popping out, carrying pews into a budget rental truck and stacking them 3 high. It was a lot of fun. Lots of fun. He calls me about 2:30 and says, hey, you got anybody that can come help me? My son's got to go to work. And I'm like, everybody's at work. And then so finally I called Mark and said, hey, Mark. He said, I got to go get Ashton and all that stuff. And so he get there about 4 o'clock. I had to leave at 4:15. And so I said, I'd like to say this. He wasn't very prepared. He had a truck. And he had some guys he thought were going to be there. But they weren't there. He had one guy from Bole's Assembly. And me and him and Pastor Nathan. And that wasn't enough. It's heavy. That's the thing, I saw the cool thing about the church up the street is the old Pentecostal Holiness Church is they have 3 pictures on the wall of the foyer. And there's people, I'm talking, there's hundreds of people pouring out of that in 1934. Hundreds of people. Everywhere. And now you look and there's like nobody there. Art Coffee and his wife Pat, they go to church there, go to Nathan. I don't know how many more, just a handful of people. Somebody didn't prepare. Whoa, got quiet. Somebody didn't prepare for 2017 because the Lord was going to come, right? So we don't have to prepare. That's not really accurate. We have to prepare like, listen, I'm not going to live forever, and whether you guys like it or not, neither are you. And so those people that were in that picture in 1934, they're all dead. Most of them. And the ones that aren't, we're wishing they are. Because they're older. Just think for example, okay, my mother was born in 1933. She's 84 years old. Wow. That's when she was a newborn being held in the picture. That's a bunch of people that have gone on to be with the Lord. But somebody didn't prepare for the next generation. And so this church, and I've said it before, and don't be bored with me, don't yawn at me, but I have to look 20 years in the future. I can't look at today. I got to look 20. See, Dave's bored, and so I'm just sorry. I know. I'm trying. I'm going to lay a little groundwork. Sure. Okay. And so I got to look 20 years in the future because I can't. See, Dean, how old are you?
58.
He's going to be 78.
No.
He'll never be 78, but his body will be, okay? But not his mind. Okay, so in 20 years, we'll be older. Woo, I'll be 68 years old. The Lord touched me. 68 years old in 20 years. And so we have to start preparing now for 20 years in the future because somebody's got to take the reins and somebody's got to take this thing further because I don't want this church to just have a handful of people in 20 years. I see that, and I saw that picture. I'm not talking about it. Nathan's doing great. He's trying his hardest. He's doing everything he knows how to do. He's doing everything but training monkeys to go get money. I mean, he's doing everything. He's working really hard. And so Nathan actually is Harrington. Actually, his son is married to one of Crystal and Jerry Washburn's daughters. And so so he's kind of connected, okay? And so we got to prepare for that because if we don't prepare, what's going to happen is we're going to die, and there's not going to be anybody here to step in our place. But we got to give place to somebody to step in our place. Oh, Jesus. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to go. Jesus was a preparer. Nothing happened by chance. He prepared. Everything that he did, he had a mission in mind. It wasn't just, I'm going to go feed some people some fish. No, there was a mission involved and a mission in mind. He said, okay, you guys go set them down in groups and you guys are going to serve them. He didn't say, set them in groups so I can serve them. He showed the disciples how to serve the people. He said, you guys set them down in groups. And then when you set them down in groups, then you're going to take this bread, you're going to take this fish, and you're going to start feeding people. But Jesus, there's not enough. Just give it to me. Blessed it, broke it, serve it. Blessed it, broke it, handed it to them, and said, serve it. So let me ask you a question. What is it that God has given us and told us to go serve that we're hanging on to because there's not enough? Yeah. We've got the people set in place. Yeah. Monica, how old are you? 23. Yeah, she's actually 27, but she says 23 because she's a girl. Okay, and so no, I'm just kidding. She's 23 years old. She's 23 years old. Has a degree, right? Very proud of her. Yes, I mean, she didn't go, she just went to high school or college, worked at Applebee's, boom, let's go. And she did all that stuff, right? She lived like with nothing, right, forever, because she's like ramen noodles, was right, ramen noodles and water. And so I know I'm very proud of her. 23 years old. She's right to place in position because she needs to start feeding. Help me, somebody. She is the perfect age. Gerald, how old are you? 23. 23. I think they're lying. That's okay. 23. They are a perfect age to start saying, here, this is how we do this. This is how God does that. This is what God requires. And we have to get out of the way, though. I've got to move out of the way. I can't. I don't want to be. I know this is going to sound horrible. You might have to take this off camera, but I don't want to be pastoring. No. When I'm an old person. No, I don't mind. People are people, but I don't want to be pastoring in my 80s. I don't. I know that sounds awful. I didn't say I didn't want to be preaching. I didn't say I didn't want to be helping. I didn't say I didn't want to be influencing in the church. I just said I don't want to be pastoring. Because, man, let some other knothead do it, man. Let them beat their head against the wall for a while. But let me be there to pick up the pieces when they come to you and say, I don't understand. And you go, baby, here's how it is. People are crazy. They're God's people. Let it go. Okay? And so you just have to shake them off, right? And you have to just pick them up, wipe their face off, and just say, okay, that's what I'm going to be doing in 20 years when I'm 68 years old. Amen. I don't want to be having to do the same things I'm doing now. But number one, I don't think I can do what I'm doing now in 20 more years. My body is not going to last that long. And so I don't want to do that. Jesus had to prepare. So the 23-year-olds over here, they are perfect. Ding, 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 ding. There's another one. There's another one. There's two more right there. Kinsey. There's another one. She looked up at me when I yelled the name. There's another one. There's some more. That doesn't mean that we do away with us. Because somebody has to say, okay, baby, here, I know they said you were cross-eyed. I know what they said about you, but it's okay. Just go get the ice. There's just some people that are mean. You have to just deal with them, but go feed them. But I'm feeding them and they're cussing me. I know that. That's okay. You have to be there for that. You have to be the person that says, baby, I know it's okay. I know you're crying. It's going to be all right because it's all going to be worth it someday. So we need us that have been down the road to be the ones that say, it's going to be okay. Because I promise you that when you're in the midst of that storm, it doesn't feel like it's going to be okay. But when you get through it, you go, oh, it's okay. It's kind of like childbirth, according to my wife, is that It's like, I'm never doing this again. Oh, there's a baby hanging. Can we have another one? And so that's what she said. And so she's like, and that's kind of like what ministry is. Ministry is like, I'm never doing this again. Oh, what happened? Let's do something else. That's what it is. It's like giving birth to something, according to my wife. Because I don't know how you feel about it, but Jesus was he was such a preparer that nothing was done by chance, that everything he did had a mission. So we have to be mission-minded in everything we do. It can't just be showing up to church because we came to church. There's got to be something going on with that. From the planting of the tree that would eventually grow, and he would be hanging from it, crucified by it. But God had a plan and planted the tree that crucified Jesus. Think about that. God allowed that tree to grow. Think about this. The skill of the person who made the nails. God allowed them to learn the skill of making nails. Is there anybody else hot in here? It's just stuffy in it. Listen. The skill of the person that made the nails to pierce his flesh. Remember, listen to this one. How about he allowed the births of the men who yelled, crucify? But there was a plan involved. Thank you, sir. That'd be great. Thank you very much. It's just stuffy to me. I don't know about it. It's to you guys. Thank you, Dean. But Jesus had a plan. God had a plan. God's plan was this. If I don't plant the tree, then there can be no salvation. The other plan was this. If I don't make the nails, then there can be no crucifixion. The third one, if I don't allow those people to be born, then there is no nobody to yell crucify, and Jesus gets away without being crucified. And now there's no salvation because there's no tree, there's no nails, and there's no crucifixion. There's nobody to crucify. So all those things had to be in place for Jesus to come into our lives. Is that any good? Okay, quit watching Dean. I know he's cute, but quit watching him, okay? All right, he's putting out the vibe. I appreciate it. But there has to be a plan. What is our plan? I'm going to have a meeting with all of our leaders in the near future. As soon as I can get some things written down on paper I want. We had a leadership meeting, and then I want our staff to come together, and I want all of us to come together. And we're going to talk about some of the things about what is our plan. Do you know our plan? No? Most people don't. I grew up in this church and never knew what our real plan was. What our real mission was. What our real goal was. It was to get people saved, but how are we going to do that? They say, what's the goal of the church? People get saved. No, that's not your goal. That is a generality of what we're supposed to be doing. But what is your goal? How are we going to do that? How can we narrow that down? How can we get this in place to where everybody in the church knows what our mission is? Everybody in church knows what our goals are. That's what we have to do. And we have to be prepared. I told you the other day, I don't mean this to be disrespectful to my pastor at all. I love my pastor, and I will always love my pastor. He's a wonderful man to me. But can I share with you? I've kind of been pastoring as Brother Turner Light, and I'm just done. I got to do what God's called me to do, and that's just the way I see it. That we have to do things with preparedness, and the church needs to know what we're doing. What's our mission? What's our goal? What are we trying to do? How are we trying to do it? We don't have to do everything. Does somebody have me with that? We don't have to do everything. Let's let the Baptist church do some things. Can we do that? Amen? Let's let the First Assembly, let's let them do something. We don't have to do everything. We don't have to feed everybody in Seminole. Let's just feed the ones we can. Well, I'm going to break. We're to follow the examples of Jesus and prepare for the work of God. We're supposed to prepare for the work of God. How do we do that? First of all, you better pray. If you're leading a Sunday school class or a remnant group, if you're leading whatever you're leading or whatever you're doing, whatever you're involved with, if you don't pray, I really don't think that you're really getting what God would have you to do in that situation. There's a way that seems right unto men, right? Yes. But destruction lies therein. Is that scriptural? I think that's what the Bible says. There you go. I was close. I was just kind of generalizing. Okay, but I think that's close, right? Okay, so the way that we think sometimes, because our ways are not His ways and our thoughts are not His thoughts, right? Okay, so I think we better get the mind of Christ and understand what God's wanting us to do in our lives. I was just looking through some of my friends that I'm friends with, and our pastors that are just doing great, and I look at their websites and I talk to them on the phone, and I say, I said, hey, or text back and forth, say, hey, listen, hey, I see you have a 5:30 in the morning prayer meeting. How's that go? Great. We have 30, 40 people show at 5:30 in the morning to go to prayer meeting. I said, really? Russell Hilton in Indianapolis, he has on Tuesday, 5:30 in the morning, he has a class. It's a leadership class at 5:30 in the morning. Every Tuesday. And it's full. You know why? Because people are hungry. And it's 5:30 in the morning, it lasts till 6:30, everybody goes to work. They have coffee, they have donuts, and you show up and they have 5:30, 6:30. But you know what? Somebody got there at 4:30 and put donuts out. Somebody got there and made coffee. Somebody did something to prepare for that ministry. And they didn't just show up, oh, Russ, did you bring the key? Oh, okay. And get started at 15 till 6. No. The day before, somebody had a plan. Said, I got to get up at 5, I got to get up at 4, get the donuts, get 4:30, get the coffee made. And Russell had to have something prepared to teach his leaders. He didn't get up at 3 o'clock Tuesday morning and say, well, let's see what I can teach them today. No, he was prepared. And so we have got to start being more prepared. God sent John the Baptist to do what? Prepare for the way of the Lord, right? Prepare the way of Jesus. Jesus sent His disciples before the people to prepare a way for the gospel to be preached. Jesus sent His disciples ahead to prepare the place for Jesus to come into the city. Jesus sent His disciples of the world that hated them to make a way where He is able to preach the gospel today. Are you hearing what I'm telling you? There's always been preparation made, and we can't just show up and act like it's going to happen. Because it doesn't work that way. I've tried it. It doesn't work that way. I can use the excuse I'm busy because I am. I wish I didn't have to work another job. I wish I didn't. But I do. For right now, I do. I'm just going to throw a little insight into my life for you. A year and a half ago, I think it was, or so, my wife went to the hospital. I remember that. That's $45,000 worth of hospital bills. Who do you think is responsible for that? Jeff and Naomi Nance. So we are responsible for that. And I'm not going to say, oh, well, I just can't pay it, sorry. No. I wasn't raised like that.
Amen.
My mother would punch me in the face. I'm just telling you. Y'all don't know that little white-haired lady looks like she don't hear nothing. Okay, y'all don't know her. Okay, that is the calm down 84-year-old version. You should have had hold of the 48-year-old version. Okay, because it was you didn't play with low. I'm just telling you, because it would get ugly real quick, and you're usually on the bad end of it. And so it would get real ugly real quick if you're her son. And she didn't like what you did? Y'all think I'm lying. Just because she can't walk now don't mean, okay? I'm just telling y'all. Just because she scoots around here now, y'all don't have any idea who she used to be. Y'all don't know who raised me, man. I remember one time, have you ever seen kids get under the clothes and, I remember I doing that one time. And I don't know where she came from, but she came from somewhere. And I never did it again, I'll promise you that right now. I promise you that right now. I don't know how she even saw where I was at, but she snatched me up right in there in the middle of God and everybody and wore me out. And I don't know if we were at Whackers, I don't know if we were at Gibson's, I don't know where we were at. But all I remember is, I don't know where she came from, my feet didn't touch the ground. And I never, one ever time, ever got underneath anybody's clothes on the clothes rack again because I was afraid. I was afraid. Well, you shouldn't be afraid of your mother. Yeah, I should. Yeah, I should. With respect, godly fear. The Bible says the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? But you shouldn't be afraid of God. God is love. Yeah, but God will snatch you bald-headed too in about 2 seconds. You just you give him a chance. He'll snatch you spiritually bald-headed in about 2 seconds. Pow! Because he wants the best for you. And my mother just wants the best for me. And so I'm the child of her old age. My brother's 62. I'm 48. So I'm the child of her old age. So I probably got away with more because she was tired. Okay? I mean, listen, Amy gets away with more than Abby did because I'm tired. Okay? That's the truth. That's the truth. But I just want to tell you that something happens whenever you don't teach somebody how to do things. To be prepared. I'm telling you, I was giving you insights what I was doing. So $45,000 worth of medical bills that God has helped us to pay down to almost nothing now in a little over a year and a half because I'm working my tail end off. That's the truth. Truth. And God has opened doors for us to do that. And I'm blessed to be able to kind of have enough stamina to do both. It's hard. When we first started here and there was 60 people, it was easy. It was easy. I'll be first to admit it was easy because compared to today, because there was just nothing ever really going on. You know, man. Somebody said I was cross-eyed. Well, you're not. Okay. And so, I mean, that's all it was. It wasn't any big deal. But when you get to 170, 180, we're at 170 Sunday. When you get to that, then it becomes a big deal. And it's more of a strain on you, and it sucks more out of you. Yeah. But I still have that bit. Well, brother, all you got to do is trust the Lord. See, now wait a minute. God rained down manna, but they had to go get it. Yeah. Didn't nobody prepare it for them? They had to go get it. God will open up doors and He'll give you manna, but you got to go get it. I believe that with all my heart. You got to go. Can God miraculously? Yes, God can miraculously do away with all that stuff. Yes, of course He can. But He can also make a way for me to do what I need to do because I'm a man of honor. And I believe that I owe that. And so if I owe that, they were good enough to save my wife's life. I might want to pay them back for that. Amen? Amen. All right, here we go. God prepared a widow woman to sustain a prophet of God. He was ready before he got to the place. Yeah. 1 Kings 17:9. Let's read it. I'm going to read New King James. So, arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I've commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, indeed, a widow was there gathering sticks, and he called to her and said, please bring me a little water in a cup that I may drink. And she was going to get it. He called to her and said, please bring a morsel of bread in your hand. So she said, as the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin, and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks, that I may go in and prepare for myself and for my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said to her, do not fear, go and do as I have said, but make me a small cake first, and bring it to me, and afterward I make some for yourself and your son. For thus saith the Lord God of Israel, the bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry, until the day of the Lord sends rain upon the earth. Now let me just share something with you real fast, and I'm trying to hurry it up a little bit. But hear me just real fast. God had prepared for the prophet a widow woman. I'm going to ask a question. Why did the widow woman not know nothing about it? He told the prophet, but she acted like she didn't know nothing. But God said, I'm already prepared. This is my opinion. I'm just going to tell you what I think, is this, that when God speaks to you, he counts it as done if you do what he tells you to do. If you do it, if you prepare. And so God prepared this lady to already be there when the prophet of God got there. And so when Elijah arrived at the place, he saw the woman who had been prepared, who had been preparing to die. He said, "Listen, lady, I need a drink of water and a cup of water and a little bit of a cake. Would you please bring that to me? I don't have it. We're going to eat this and die." He said, "Don't worry about it. Just do what God says."
Yeah.
And so when she did what God, the man of God, had told her that God had said to do, what happened was this, is that it sustained her family through the famine. Yeah. So can I share this with you? And I'm going to try to cut it short tonight, but listen, can I share with this? When God has prepared for you something and you are prepared to do what God has called you to do, what happens is it sustains you through the droughts in your life when you don't know what you're going to do. And God has said, would you please just go, I prepare somebody to prepare something for you, but don't be afraid to be where God wants you to be. Yeah. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's a dude tonight. That's okay. We're going to cut into this a little bit. Okay. It was already prepared. It was already ready. Because God knows when he speaks something. When he speaks it, it has to be done. Yeah. In Isaiah 40:3, it said, "The voice of him crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God." Yeah. He said, "You what? Prepare ye the way of the Lord." Church, I'm a simple guy. I'm very simple. It's the church's job to simply tell the world about Jesus in every aspect. In our actions, in the way we act, in our actions, in the way that we help me out. Not just what's the word? And what we do, not just our actions, but what we do. Help me out with the word. It's our deeds. Thank you. Wow, I couldn't think of the word. All right, our deeds. You know, it's one thing to say, God touched those people in Houston. God touched those people in Miami. God touched Puerto Rico. God touched the Virgin Islands. God touched the people in Las Vegas. God touched all. It's one thing to do that, and it's a good thing to pray for those people. But it's another thing to put foot to mouth. Are you prepared to help them in another way? Are you prepared to write the check? Are you prepared to go online and swipe the card? Are you prepared to say, I'm going to do without McDonald's for this week so somebody might get some drinking water for the week? I know that's not popular, but and I'm not trying to ridicule anybody. I just say, listen, are you willing to do that? Well, Brother Jeff, are you willing? Yes, we are. We do. But are you willing to do without some Dr. Peppers? Because the Virgin Islands are destroyed, man. Puerto Rico is a mess. My friend Rick, who's helped us out many, many times, has a friend in Puerto Rico because they were actually planning on buying a place in Puerto Rico and before the oil blew up. And I hope he doesn't mind me telling this. If he does, I apologize. But they were planning on, they'd go down on vacation. That's where they would go on vacation. So I don't know if they're planning on buying. I shouldn't have said that because I don't know if that's true. But they would go down. So he knows a man there because they went to church, a little church there, and they got to know somebody there. Well, that man's business is booking vacations. That's his entire business. So he's not going to have any vacationers for what, a year and a half, maybe 2. And so, also, I said all that to say this, it becomes personal when you know somebody who has to drive from one town to another town just to get a cell phone signal because there's no cell phone towers where he lives because they're laying flat on the ground. They have tarps over the tops of their houses to keep rain out and bugs out and stuff because there's no roof on their house anymore. And I know that the news isn't covering it anymore, but they're still down there. I know Houston still has tons of stuff in their front yards, and they still don't have their insurance claims have not come in yet, and they still have mud all over their house, and they don't know what they're going to do. Just because the news has moved on doesn't mean that life has moved on. But the media, actually, they're really going to talk about something about the president or something instead of about what's going on in our nation. And I know today that there were food drops and all kinds of drops in the Virgin Islands today, and that's great. But do you know what that's doing to our economy, to our what's the gross national product? Our product. Gross national product is sucking money from it because we don't have the money really to give them. But we're giving it because we have to. How do you let people that are in the United States Virgin Islands starve to death? You don't do that, right? Right. How do you do it in Puerto Rico? You don't just leave them out there without any water. You have to go do what you have to do. How about Houston? You can't just go down there without. FEMA has paid out millions of dollars to people in Houston and in Florida, and because it's sucking money out of us and it's weakening us. Because we don't have money to do that with. And so let me just share another thing with the earthquake. And how about the earthquakes in Mexico? Oh my stars, are you kidding me? How many people have died in that? That's crazy. And this stuff is happening over and over and over. And it doesn't just go away because it's the next day and the news has moved on. We have to prepare a way to be not only our actions but our deeds of the church. What is it that we're called to do? Matthew 3:3. For this is he that was spoken of by the prophet Isaiah, saying, the voice of one crying in the wilderness, preparing the way of the Lord, make his path straight. Luke 22:8-12. And he sent Peter and John, saying, go and prepare for us the Passover, that we may eat. Jesus was always preparing. I've been very slack. God just, I'm telling you, 2 months ago, God just got a hold of me, man. And I'm telling you, I took a spiritual whipping. If you never had a spiritual whipping, you don't want one. You don't. I'm telling you. Spiritual whippings are hard to take. But you know what it tells me? I'm not a bastard child, I'm a son. That's according to the word. I can say this like a cuss. That's what his word says. That means I'm his son. And he cares enough to grab me by the ear and say, listen, I told you. Okay. And he grabbed me up from underneath the clothes rack. I didn't even know where he came from, but I just know he came. Amen? Luke 22:8. And he said, Peter and John, say, go prepare for us the Passover that we may eat. And verse 9 said, and they said unto him, where wilt thou that we prepare? And he said unto them, behold, when you enter into a city, there shall be a man meet you, bearing a pitcher of water. Follow him to the house and enter in it. Jesus had already prepared, so he knew somebody was going to be carrying a pitcher of water. He prepared another place, verse 12. And he shall show you a large upper room furnished. There, make ready. I don't know about you, but I do know this, that we have opportunity that we've never had. Matthew chapter 24, 25, 26. We're living there. We're living in a place where nation shall rise against nation. Floods, earthquakes, just sicknesses, war, rumors of war. All that stuff is happening right now. But Jesus said, but don't worry, time's not yet. But all this stuff has to happen for the end to come. So can I share this with you, and I'll quit, because y'all can sleep yet. If all that stuff needs to happen for the end to come, don't you think, praise team, jumping back up. Don't y'all think fallen in place, then it's happened, right? He said all these things have to happen in the end. If I'm seeing all these things happen, then I'm telling you the end's coming. Right? Is that, I'm just following the bouncing ball, man. I'm telling you, I grew up in the 70s watching TV, and they had these little 30s cartoons. That's how I learned how to spell Mississippi. True. M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I-P-P-I. It was a cartoon with a bouncing ball. And I learned it in 3rd grade. How to spell Mississippi. I was so proud of myself because I could spell Mississippi. Learned it. 1930s cartoon. I followed the bouncing ball. So understand what I'm telling you. If I'm following the bouncing ball, and there's wars, and there's rumors of wars, there's pestilence, there's earthquakes, there's hurricanes, there's floods, there's all this stuff going on, I'm following the bouncing ball. There's those that are saying, I'm Christ, I'm the Christ, I'm the Christ, I'm the Christ. There's signs in the moon and the sun. What do you mean? We had 3 or 4 or 4 blood moons in the last year and a half. 4 blood moons in the last year and a half. We had a total solar eclipse. We're going to have another one in a couple of years. Signs in the moon and the stars and the sun. I'm just telling you, Jesus is coming. Are you ready? Have you prepared the way? Because if you haven't prepared in your heart the way, then what happens is this: when the Lord returns, here's another question. Are we preparing to reach another generation? Listen, I love my 23-year-old. How old are you? 37-year-old. Andrew? 36-year-old. Man, I love that we have this variety of age groups. I love it. I got an 84-year-old mama that's right here. I love that I got how old is my sister Phyllis? She's got to be 80. And Joe? I love, they're usually right there. He had to work tonight at Joe's church. She's in London. I'm telling you, I'm so excited. Brother Alex, how old are you? 41. 41. That's my brother right there. In our 40s right there. Amen. I love it. Larry, do anyone want to ask? Okay. I love it. You know my only gripe that I gripe to God about our congregation? There's not enough color in it for me. That's my only gripe. I love the age groups. I love you guys. I love we got a Stephen. I love we got an Alex. I love we got a Quacky. I love we have all that. We have Carolyn. She's beautiful. Okay, I love it. I love it. But my only gripe is there's just not enough color. Amen. Not enough color. So when I'm talking to God about y'all, I'm not talking about y'all a lot. I say, God, just let us be that church that everybody can come to. And not just, well, that's a white church, or that's a black church, or that's an Indian church, or that's a Mexican church, or that's a migrant church, or that's a cowboy church, or whatever. I don't know. I just want a church that everybody can come to and feel like they're home. Yeah. That's
Amen.
what I want. I'm not a complicated guy. And so we're going to stand to your feet with me. Come on.